Have you ever run into situations where there's interference from any of the spectators, like trying to fuck people over, like throwing jacks out or tripping people or shit like that?
Yeah, when I did Chattanooga in 2014, Chattanooga's right on the border, and the bike goes down into Georgia, and so I don't know what the county of Chattanooga is, but whatever county it is,
Chattanooga County sounds good.
we'll call it that. It gets the majority of the revenue, and Georgia had a lot of the road closures, and so a lot of people weren't happy about that. So they ended up a farmer went out and poured oil all over the road.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and we were the pro males are the first ones that come up to that, and then on the other side, right before the border, they threw tacks all over the road. So they weren't very happy, and that's the only time that I've had that specific thing. And every other time in Chattanooga, it's been a great experience, but that one was just a rough year for at least one guy.
No, it's a trip. In terms of just logistics across the board, can you talk about, once you're at a pro level, kind of what the team looks like and what all it takes to do a race? I think, to me, that's an impressive machine that exists at what it takes to have everything ready and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, so I've got an overall coach, Julie Divins. Worked with her for 4 years, or 3 or 4 years now. It's been a really good fit. And then I brought on a bike coach as well. So Julie kind of says this is the amount of stress that I get to have, and then my bike coach, he's from the UK. He fits in the training base out of her like kind of overarching plan. And then I've got a strength coach as well. That I work with remotely primarily. He's in Boulder, so when I'm out in Boulder seeing Coach Julie, then he's here, and so I'll go out to Boulder typically 3 or 4 times a year, train with her group out there. She's got a huge number of really good athletes to train with. We all mesh really well together, which is important. Sometimes you got guys that you might be a little bit too competitive with, so or the ego gets in the way or things like that. So getting a good group together is good. We do a pre-world championship camp in Lawrence, Kansas, of all places, every year. It's hot, windy, and humid, so preps you for Hawaii, I guess. And then typically I would go down to a race for a full Ironman. I try to get there about a week before. Sometimes a little bit longer, especially if it's if it's like Ironman Texas and I've been training in my garage all winter. I want to get down there a little bit earlier to have a little bit more time outside. And then coach usually comes in the day before the race, and then I've got a team of sponsors that work to make sure that I have all the equipment and everything sorted that I need. And I always enjoy the Ironman races the best because it takes a lot of stress away. Typically, like, my bike sponsor is there at the expo, so I'm able to just drop my bike off with them and make sure it. Otherwise, I'm the mechanic, and I trust them a lot more.
Yeah. Did you crash once there?
I did, in 2015. So my first year there as a pro, it was a mile into the bike. I was using a prototype stem, so it was a component on the bike, not the bike itself, but it just folded, and so I was going down a hill, had no brakes, and ended up taking out a police officer. Probably saved me from significant injury.
No shit.
It was a hard corner at the bottom, and I just ran straight into him. My bike went into a little lava wall that they have there, and it just kind of...
Was it just him, or was he in a cruiser?
No, it was just him. He was there
shit.
kind
Did
of...
you fuck him up?
Unfortunately, yeah. He wasn't long-term badly hurt, but he wasn't very happy, and I put a pretty big bruise on his thigh, and I think he was getting married the next week, and he had to go down the aisle in a wheelchair.
Holy shit.
I've actually had a contact with him a couple times. He was thankfully really good about it. I think he realized that if I went to ran into him, it was going to be a bad deal.
Yeah, so you probably saved your life or close to it.
Yeah.
Have you had other bad crashes? And one thing, again, my experience with bike races is pretty limited to watching either Ragbri in Iowa, which I've never done. Most people aren't going to have any idea what that is, but you should. It's a pretty epic fucking border-to-border race or event in Iowa every summer. But it was watching Tour de France or Tour de Spain or whatever, and seeing some of the fucking crashes that they have, I'm assuming a 112-mile bike, like there's probably some epic crashes that are every bit as gnarly as those, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are compounded because you have so many people riding in a group, so they happen much more frequently, and they're all within inches of each other. We're spaced out a little bit, so you've got some reaction time. I've crashed one other time in a race. Well, in Australia, I crashed out of that race, but it wasn't near the injury that I had at Kona. But there's been some, a few bad accidents, a lot of training. You hear about partners getting, or fellow competitors getting hit by a semi, or things like that, and that happens all too often, especially now when everybody's on their phone all the time, and like we're on country roads, that we think are quiet, but the cars think they're quiet, and so they're not paying as much attention either. So
yeah, it's rough.
There's some coaches out there that have been very successable. I interviewed with one coach. Like, I flew out, spent quite a bit of money to fly out last minute to basically give a planned on a 2-week trial. Is this going to work? And he sent me home on the first day. He's like, I don't want to work with you.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Tell him to fuck off.
No. Well, I just did, that I was at a tough point, and then that happened. And, again, at that point, you're so narrow-minded, like my world's ended, what just happened? I wanted to work with this guy, I thought. And
do you know why he didn't want to work with you?
Yeah, I don't. He just said, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Oh shit.
And that was it. And he's like, you can leave. And off I went, and in the end, that was the best thing that happened to me, because I ended up, instead of flying home, I flew to Denver to stay with my agent for a day, just to just try to get away, and she had set up to have Coach Julie there, and we went on a ride, and it just was a good fit.
Yeah.
And so, those types of situations can kind of lead to a good thing every now and then. It's like one of those, okay, God, this is where I'm supposed to be, not there. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so in terms of being a good coach, you got to listen. The sport can be very technical, and I've had coaches that rely highly on the technical side of things, and then others that more on the qualitative, and each athlete kind of is drawn to a little bit of a different side of that, and so it's just figuring out what the athlete needs, and you can't be a one size fits all. You got to kind of, I coach different people different ways.
Yeah. Again, with what I do, there's a lot of parallels between coaching and dog training. That same way is that, I tell people this all the time, and I think it would apply with coaching as well. It doesn't matter what I think or even what I perceive. What matters is how they perceive it, and if they don't understand it, or or they're not motivated by it or whatever, then that's you've got to adapt to them, and dogs unfortunately make it even harder, because you can't explain a fucking thing to them. Or you can, but they're not going to understand it.
I've definitely my dog's definitely made me better.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the patient side of things.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you have kind of a mission statement or a mantra, or like a 30-second elevator pitch in terms of your business that you kind of adhere to? Yeah,
I mean, my coaching has tried to be backed by science. Number one, that's who I am. As in training, but it's also using the qualitative feedback that I get, and then the experiences that I've had to build the best programs that I can for the individual.
Yeah. What do you want people to leave this conversation understanding about you and the sport?
The sport itself is great if you have the right mindset, but it can become very consuming. And I think I said it once earlier on. It's just, you got to know why you're there. I've had a lot of talent that I've worked with. I had one guy that was just dead set on a specific time goal, and that was all that fueled his training, was getting that one time goal. And it turned out to be on race day, it was like 110 degrees and windy, and he missed his time goal by like 2 minutes or something like that. Quit the sport.
Oh,
he was devastated. Wow. And it's just like, it can be all consuming, and so if it's your hobby, you got to treat it as your hobby. If it's and it's just knowing what it is that fuels you, and keeping that, and not letting it stray too far away from there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.